the yoke of Western elites. We do not oppose Western elites. Those who are in control of the Western culture, they are against Western culture now as such. BRICS faces the task of deep decolonization of our consciousness. When understanding our traditional values, we will be able to build our common future. And I would like now to give the floor to our colleague from Iran, to Ms. Sakra Mohammadi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak here. Today is the day of the Russian language, and I'm going to speak in Russian today. Dear participants of this forum, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to focus on a very aspect of BRICS cooperation, the cultural foundation. BRICS is not only political and economic ties, but also traditions, common values, and history. We have to take into account historic ties between Iran and Russia. We can hope that we'll continue our cultural cooperation within the BRICS bloc. Iran and Russia have a long history of cooperation, 555 years. We have been in exchange in terms of science and culture. It began in ancient times. In the era of globalization, the cultural cooperation is becoming even more important. Current challenges that the cultures of Iran and Russia are facing and possible ways to counter it can be divided into different sectors. The globalization of information technologies leads to unification of cultural phenomena. Western standards and common culture can exert pressure on identity, but we can counter it. We can develop national media, foster cultural exchange. We can support media that concentrate on unique cultural features and successes. We can also organize festivals, concerts to make the national cultures more popular. It's one of the tools to counter what I talked about. The growth of religious intolerance can lead to the conflict, to a conflict between cultures, but we can initiate a dialogue between religious leaders and between different peoples to mitigate this conflict and initiate educational programs that contribute to tolerance and understanding. The dialogue between Christianity and Islam is now going on. It has been going on for a couple of years, but I think that this dialogue should be on the level of peoples. The internet and social media can propagate negative stereotypes and misinformation about different cultures. That's why we have to educate people and teach them critical thinking, and they have to learn how to differentiate true information from fakes. The youth is now under pressure, under the influence of stereotypes. We have to integrate into the educational programs different information about mutual understanding. It's important that Iran and Russia keep cooperating in terms of culture. They exchange different strategies to preserve their uniqueness that help them to overcome challenges. These two countries value their cultural identity. They respect multipolarity and support traditions. Together, we can work to preserve our cultural heritage, to develop art and education programs. I have a couple of suggestions or ideas. I think that BRICS can become a platform where we can exchange different projects, ideas, and to develop different art spheres, not only between Iran and Russia, but also among other states that are part of BRICS. We can support learning languages, art, literature, and cultural history with each other. Iran and Russia within BRICS can develop their cultural interaction in the following ways. They can exchange students and professors, create programs at universities in Iran and Russia, joint research projects that can include archaeological findings, the research of ancient texts, creation of educational materials, and so on and so forth. We can organize festivals that are dedicated to cinema, traditional culture, theater. This will help to raise awareness among wider audience and can help them to learn more about the cultures of Russia and Iran. Language courses, professional translators and interpreters, cinema, and television are those areas that contribute to the development of cooperation among BRIC states. We can create documentaries, cartoons, movies. This will help propagate cultural values in the world. In 1990s, the Russian thinker Yuri Lotman wrote a very important article where he pointed out the important thing about how to respect the difference in other people. I think that we are all together. We should live together. Learn how to live together. Thank you very much. I'm going to give the floor to Kirill Babayev, Director of the Institute of China and Modern Asia at the Russian Academy of Sciences. Dear colleagues, I would suggest that we for us to be brief, so let's not exceed 5 or 7 minutes so that we can take some questions from the audience. Thank you very much. We should be aware of the fact that BRICS is the future of international relations. Today, our system is functioning on the basis of Yalta and Potsdam systems. Now it's decaying. Another system is replacing it. It's based on BRICS values. It means that we are seeing it right now, and we cannot act without the cultural component. As it was said, together with economics and security, we should be paying attention to culture. We don't really know the cultures of biggest civilization layers that BRICS consists of. What do we know, for example, about Iranian music, about the modern Chinese literature, about Ethiopian cuisine? We don't know much. And in those countries, they don't know well our culture. But in China, everyone knows what the song Katusha is, and Podmoskovny Vechera, and can sing this song very well. And the school students know Ostrovsky and Pushkin. What do we know about Chinese literature? We're not taught that. We don't know anything about China or India. We only learn about Western culture, with all the love affairs that the Louis XIV had. So that's what we're learning about. We have to reach a balance in our education to understand this cultural context. Because we don't do that, we don't learn culture of these countries, we will not be able to create ties on political, educational, and cultural levels. We have to rethink our educational systems. This is the foundation of this cultural unity that we are discussing today. And this cultural unity has its core. I'm supporting the words of Alexander Dugin. I think we have to support our traditional and spiritual values. Our president recently said that we have to develop these values. There's a gap between this world majority and us. The Western elites lost this traditional and spiritual values. The rest of the world is trying to preserve those values. And on this foundation, we can create cooperation between our countries. I wouldn't I wouldn't just completely disregard the West, because we are also a part of the Western civilization with its deep roots, with its traditions and Christianity. But the Western elites have stepped to this side. But I think it's only temporary. This post-globalization model of the Western culture, I think it's temporary because it's a dead end. We have to preserve the cultural and spiritual values that have to be discussed at summits, at different forums. We're now awaiting the summit, the BRICS summit in October, and I think those questions will be raised there as well, because this is what creates the foundation of our similarity, of those countries that are part of BRICS and are trying to join the bloc. And I think that we have the trajectory and we understand what we have to do within Russia and among BRICS states. We have our goals and we have our dream. On the principles of equality, inclusive security, respecting the interests of each other, build a completely new system of international relations. So let's hope we'll achieve this goal. Thank you very much.
Now, I'd like to give the floor to the representative of India, the president of the BRICS International Forum, to Purnima Anand. The floor is yours.
This is an afternoon session, and sometimes we feel lazy, so I just say you namaste from India. I'm working in BRICS bloc since 2008 as the president of BRICS International Forum. And with the Association of Russian Embassy in India, we formulated BRICS International Forum in 2015. As you know that in 2015 also Russia was the chair country of BRICS, and in UFA summit it was declared that civil organizations needed to be developed for the public dialogue. Since that time, we are working to initiate dialogue people to people and to carry forward the BRICS Summit's agenda to the masses. And in this regard, we got very good success. And today, when we are talking in the BRICS goals, and we are thinking about cultural unity in diversity of BRICS countries, it is very important what market space we have in the world. We heard about Michael Jackson shows, very high level tickets and very difficult, and only elite class can go there. And still Michael Jackson is no more, but still his fever is in the image of young people. I would like to say that in India we are having very traditional old festival we organize in 12 years. It is Kumbh Mela, because you are having knowledge about Akhand Bharat. So in Kumbh Mela, from all over the world, all spiritual entities comes automatically. There's no need of invitations. There's no need of organizing anything. And at the river of the bank, after every 12 years, this festival happens spiritually. And from there I learned, because nowadays we are working in digital and artificial intelligence, there I learned that artificial intelligence is nothing. Spiritual intelligence is much, much higher than artificial intelligence. There I understand that how people communicate without language, how people are communicating without country borders, and how people can see your future, your past. And we observe it. This is not fake stories or not I'm saying any written stories, but practically we observed, and I am inviting all of you in such festivals. And I studied about China. In China also, there is one very big festival happens every year where lakhs of millions of people reached. And many days people live on roads and cars and trucks to reach there. So this is a common cultural, traditional heritage which we have, but we are not showcasing to the world because we are not advertising, we are not financing it. We are not taking participation fees from it. This is natural, automatic. But why I am mentioning in this question that what is cultural market? Because in this two type of festivals, billions of dollars comes and goes and no accountability. But if we will organize such cultural compositions in our BRICS programs, then I can say we are the billion size market in cultural heritage. And in Africa also, tribal communities organize very big programs, but they are diversified, need to unite. Secondly, we heard about Rama, and I am connecting it with the Russian Vedic culture, because Aryans come from Altai region to Russia, and Rama we know, but I was discussing a few hours back with our one Russian friend who is having very good knowledge of Vedas and Vedic culture. So he told me that Rama was connected with Hanuman, and Hanuman came from Omsk region. This is a site of two parts of mountain. If you will see from Indian side, we say that he came from Uttara side. But it is a second part of the mountain side. Hanuman came, because we say that Hanuman came and fly. But what it was technologies that time which we don't know, because through meditation we know now we can do so many things, health checkups and health treatments by distance. But that time also such facilities were there, I feel. So in Omsk, as a proof, we are having very old temple where we can show the oldest presence of Hanuman. So these are the heritage, these are the cultural, which we need to understand. And why we are talking in this session? Because we are getting opportunity. Otherwise, we are not getting opportunity to speak about Russia-India culture in international frame, and not India and China is not talking together, because we are having very rich Buddhism culture, which we are not exploring. And this is a very big market, because in our country, Buddhist culture is explored by Dalai Lama, which is not real guru of China. So this is a dispute, but we need to understand this dispute, because I visited to China in Xiamen in one BRICS summit. And in evening, I went to one Buddhist temple, and it was closed. Just I'm giving you example, time is short, I know, but it is a good example because Chinese friends are here and they are from media, I want to mention it. So I was in Xiamen in BRICS Summit, and in evening I went to one Buddhist temple and it was closed. And I wanted to go there because it was Buddhist temple and I wanted to see. So then my assistant who was helping me in translation, she discussed with them and she said, I am from India and I am interested to open and to see this. Then they discussed so many people, and ultimately their one senior Buddhist came and he told me something in Chinese, but finally, in short, I'm telling you, they opened that whole Buddhist temple in traditional way, because they close in traditional way and they open in traditional way. And they said that we did it after 100 years for you. But we want to showcase you that how we are respecting Buddhism, and we respect Indian Buddhism, because Buddhism came from in our country from Indian root. So that is a culture of China. That is a spirit of China. That is a friendship of China with India. But due to Western influence and Western, you can say, cultural influence in our country, we are not united on Buddhism with China and India. So this need to be addressed through Chinese friends. And secondly, I want to say that if you want to develop BRICS as a cultural market, it is very big scope. We should organize events, because Western world organize the events to attract marketplace, and we have to showcase our market space in the world. And Indian culture is very respected, and it sounds everywhere in the festivals very fast, and we are having very good heritage of culture. So I must say that we are having very good opportunities to unite people, and through our culture, our unity, we can showcase what we want and how we are strong, and we can work together as one family for the world prosperity and peace. That's what I want to say in this conference, and I am working since very long time and through this forum, because nowadays so many forums are developing and we don't know who is who, and who will work for the development of BRICS and who is coming to get the fruits of BRICS. So we need to address the right people. And secondly, from this forum, yesterday I talked to Vasily that from last 17 years, I am continuously working for the extension and expansion of BRICS programs. So from this forum, I want to declare that now BRICS is matured at 17, 16 years. Now we need to enter into next level. And we can say it can be a 2.0 program from 1.0 to 2.0, where we need to make our marketplace united way. Not only cultural, because in our industrial, in agriculture, in health, we are having so many sectors to unite us to prove our marketplace in world. We are not only 47% GDP. We can increase it into multiple folds, but we need to organize the mechanism at 2.0 level. So from this platform, will start 2.0 level to unite, to make the mechanism and to work on this mechanism. As my friend from Iran said that we need to organize joint programs. So this is the dialogue we are doing to organize joint program for the action plan. And I welcome your ideas, and we want to organized program with the Muslim world, because in our country, due to Western influence, our country is in stress in Hindu-Muslim agendas. But we are not like this. We welcome all religion, all ideas, and all ideologies in our country. So, and we are having, I would like to say my condolence for the accidental death of President of Iran, because he was doing a lot of work for the unity of BRICS, and he united Muslim resources with BRICS. So this was his very big contribution, and today Iran is member of BRICS family. So this kind of unity, devotion and dedication we need for our BRICS growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Очень интересно, что вот если говорить.
Very interestingly, if we talk about the Russian-Indian cultural relations, two friends of mine, film director Sergei Jebyshev from St. Petersburg and Konstantin Molofeyev, are working on the joint project of Russian and Indian cinematography. They are preparing several films with the participation of Russian and Indian actors. But the most interesting thing is one of the films is to be dedicated to Indo-Aryan proto-era, ancient period of history, when the ancestors of Vedic area used to live in the territory of Russia in Central Asia. And there is the idea to create this film in Indo-European language, not in Indian or English, but in the restored Indo-European language, the ancient language that is. I, in particular, am the author of two research papers. One of them is dedicated to India, the civilization of the absolute, and the second is the Logos of Turan, that is an ancient Indo-European culture, very ancient one. These are predecessors of European and Slavic nations, Indian and Iranian nations. And the second book is dedicated directly to India. We are to know each other today. We have signed an agreement with the one of these societies in Delhi, and it is very important, as you have rightly mentioned, to create BRICS 2.0. We are too mature. We are to become older, and maturity means knowledge, knowing each other at a deeper level, knowing the cultures of each other at a much deeper level. I'm very thankful for your proposal, for the proposal of our Iranian colleagues. And now I would like to give the floor to Samson Mekenen Hailu, Vice President at Addis Ababa University. As I've mentioned, Ethiopia is the symbol of free Africa, of eternal Africa, of the proud Africa. That is the role model and one of the route to liberation of the great continent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the chance. I would like to begin with, or continue with the point that has been raised by the chairman, and that Ethiopia is the cradle of human being and the most ancient fossil, the oldest and the most complete fossil was found in Ethiopia. Following that, Ethiopia is the only country in Africa which was never colonized, and with its own culture, diverse culture, and history. Wherever you go, you can hear about Ethiopia. Ethiopia's contribution to the independence of Africa, for the first time fighting colonizers, and it is after the Battle of Adwa that most African countries became independent, you know. So the diverse culture, the diverse history of Ethiopia can be explained everywhere. You know, Ethiopia has a population of around 120 million these days. 120 million population with a very tiger economy in Africa, very fast developing, and for the last 10 years, we have been growing in a two-digit double economy. However, the past 2-3 years, we have been facing a very serious challenge and injustice from the West countries. If you remember, it's for the first time that United Nations Security Council brought the case of Ethiopia 16 times within almost a year. They brought the case of Ethiopia. The United Nations National Security Council brought on the table and discussed the matter, and they put sanction on us. And we have been suffering from the challenges, injustice of the global West, you know. One way or the other, that is an opportunity for us to seek for the just group called the BRICS, which is actually focusing on a balanced, which is working for a justice and a balanced global order. And we really appreciate what BRICS has been doing in terms of the very serious pressure from the West. You know, it's very absolutely serious pressure. It would be good if it is something that is justifiable, but it is something that they don't even try to justify the sanction on Ethiopia. So what is very interesting is it's China and Russia who was fighting for us on that dark time. So we as a nation would be grateful for the China and Russia. What I would like to critically mention is that for the establishment of United Nations, the then League of Nations, Ethiopia was the first country to sign, you know. It is after that most African countries followed and joined that institution. And now recently we joined BRICS, and with this significant number of population and this growing economy and with very diverse culture, we strongly believe that we can contribute to the attempts made by BRICS in order to create a balanced and just world. So, coming back to the point of discussion, what I would like to stress on is that it is very critical that media plays a make or break role in BRICS. As we all know, media has power, is powerful, and it's instrumental for the West in order to influence the remaining nation. It is instrumental for the West that they secure their own interests through fake news, through propaganda, as their own writer, Noam Chomsky, mentioned that the manufacturing consent, and the CNN effect theory also explains. So, if that is the case, there is something that we can learn, take a lesson from the media, the West media, how they stand together, how they work together, even for something unjust, for something imbalanced, so that the BRICS countries should get together and sit down and think of the media strategy, which can bring together all cultures and work for the same goal. So I think it is the right moment to think of the media policy, common media policy. Do we have that editorial policy? The editorial policy that could promote BRICS nation. The editorial policy that could possibly bring together the culture, the diverse culture across BRICS member states. So I would suggest that we have a solid scientific strategy that could unify and integrate the media houses we have, so that we can easily promote interculturalism. We can easily promote multiculturalism. We can share our ideas together. So by culture, I can understand that as Professor Jirtov Sadeh, who is the professor of culture, well-known culture professor, he mentioned that culture is a collective mental programming, If that is the case, we have something collectively. We have a common objective, right? We have set up a common goal. For that matter, our media should work hard on how can we achieve that goal we have set up, and working seriously to achieve, towards which we are working seriously. Therefore, the agenda setting role of media has to be critically considered. Our media should set up agendas for the world to discuss, in favor of BRICS. Otherwise, if the Ethiopian media works its own way and the Russian works its own way, the Brazil the same, and others, and then we couldn't have an agenda that can influence the global discourse, Therefore, we have to think on over all these points, and importantly, in the current world of fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda, we have to have a very strong media houses that can safeguard the interest of BRICS member states. And that is the point I wanted to make. And thanks so much.
Благодарю вас.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Today, we've touched upon the foundation on which we can unite culturally. As far as the cultural market is concerned, economy is a different issue, but now we're talking about culture. Why are Western media so consolidated? Because they're led by one idea. They don't believe in traditions. They ignore traditions. The West doesn't accept any traditions, including its own. That's what cancel culture is about. It's an attack on our culture, on cultures of different European nations. And I think that it would be right if we came to a conclusion that BRICS, uniting all of the cultures, traditions, will protect the identity. Our Ethiopian colleague talked about the mental code. This code is different in different countries, but it wants to be preserved, wants to be alive. That what differentiates us from the West. And we don't have to think of a new BRICS ideology. We have to protect our own culture and understand at the same time that the tradition of Ethiopian Christianity differs from Russian Christianity or from Buddhism, from Islam. It's very important. And this is the tradition of Ethiopian culture, and we have to protect it along with our traditions. It's a completely different model of thinking. It unites us, and it underscores the fact that we're different, and we have to build our strategy upon that. I want to give the floor to Jairo Alfonso Lugo Okando from the Dean of the College of Communication from the United Arab Emirates.
And thank you for this invitation and for the opportunity to share the ideas today here. I want to start with a couple of mental exercises. The first one is to question this US dollar bill. The United States economy is the most in-depth economy in the world. 123% of the GDP is in debt. It's impossible to pay that. It has one of the highest levels of disparities, homeless, and poverty. Nonetheless, this continues to be the most powerful currency in the world, with no backup. And part of the reason that it is culture. That's why this is so important. And I'll answer that question with another question. How many of those who are here can name 5 top movies, 5 top artists, 5 top singers from any BRIC country, except yours, from last year? I'm sure your list will be very empty. Perhaps 1 or 2 would be able to name a few. One of the most powerful elements of the United States hegemony, it's its ability to project soft power, as Professor Nye said once in his work. It's not a new projection. If you think about history, you think about the last Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, which finished in by 1453. Everybody in the Byzantine Empire was speaking Greek. You know, it's amazing. They were not speaking Latin. Not even the leaders were speaking Latin. They were speaking Greek. And the power of culture through history has been learned. One thing I perhaps, and I, with all due respect with Professor Alexander, I will disagree. I think the West does respect culture, but they appropriate it and they turn it into commodity to sell it. And they take fashion, they take food, and then they commodify it and standardize it. And that's one of the most important points that I think I'm going to make in the analysis today. After the Second World War in 1948, President Harry S. Truman decided to close the propaganda office of the United States, and the military of the United States says, "You're crazy. This has been one of the most powerful elements that we have. Why are you going to close the propaganda office of the United States?" And President Truman said, "We don't need it. We just need to train the journalists across the world to behave like our journalists, and they will be the best ambassadors to sell the market economy, the capitalist society, and the liberal democracy ideal. They will be our agents for standardizing taste, culture. And people forget that one big part of the Marshall Plan, where General George Marshall implemented the Marshall Plan, was establishing standardization. The fifth directorate of the United Nations was the Directorate of Information. And one of the most important elements in the original setting of the UNESCO, before it became a critical body, but when it was still very under the hegemony of the United States until the 1980s, they produced the One World, Many Voices report, the McBride report. Until then, one of the main functions of the UNESCO was to standardize culture, to create specific patterns of culture that everybody will follow. Everybody will have to have the same number of newspapers, televisions, radio stations to standardize. And this was part of the whole model paradigm of development from Rosewood, from the whole idea of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, which, by the way, were created before the end of the Second World War in 1944, in the Bretton Woods agreements that had become from the idea of standardizing procedures in Latin America, where the idea of Bretton Woods really started, not there, as many authors have pointed out. So what are we facing today? We're facing a world in which the United States and to a minor degree Western Europe have been able to dominate the standardization of culture. What Umberto Eco called integrated and apocalypse is the idea of a culture of a standard of a McDonaldization of society, in which you consume cinema, painting, films, television, music with a specific standard, no matter what. And if there's a deviation because the United States cultural industries observe a deviation that reinforces tradition, they will take that tradition and they were commodify that tradition. They were standardized, so it's adapt and it become another commodity, another product. In today's world, the competition for BRIC is not to play the same game, because in this game of standardizes, we're going to lose again, because to change taste is going to take too much time. So the key question is, how do we make instead diversity successful in globalized markets? Because the success of the United States is that they standardize so McDonald's can operate in any place in the world, offer the same standards with little variations of the food or products that they sell. But at the end of the day, the kids will buy the Happy Meal with the Disney kids box, no matter where you are. So how can BRICS fight this hegemony? How can we provide a different alternative? In my view, there's two elements to provide this. One is the creation of the notion that diversity operates well when it can be properly distributed and consumed. I have Netflix. And I have a long time that I don't see American films, in U.S. films in Netflix, because by now it's not that I'm against them. It's just this boring. They're the same films over and over. The Marvel films. I tend to watch now Indian films, I confess, because they're more interesting, particularly independent films. And a lot of people are there. But sometimes you don't have that accessibility. So that's the second point I'm going to make. The need of BRICS is to generate platforms of distribution and exchange. These platforms need to be technologically as sound and savvy as good. Where is the BRICS leaks? Instead of Netflix, we should have a BRIC leaks. Now, the private sector in the BRIC should be involved, but it's not going to be enough. Governments in the BRIC nations will have to support and underpin these new platforms of distribution, particularly now that Netflix, for example, have become so dominant. I support the idea that we have to have seminars, we have to have events, but the cultural distribution on the daily life of the average consumer in Brazil, in India, in China, have to be made accessible to them. People should be able to sit down, turn on the TV or the tablet, and become available. Netflix will not do that. Netflix will give you a degree of diversity, but it has to be the own platforms from the BRICS countries that have this level of exchange. They should be in my opinion, there should be quotas, like the European Union does, quotas for distribution in cinema. If you go to any place in any cinema in Europe, they're protected. French films are very protected. You can show so many U.S. films, and then you have to show a number of French film, and it's become over the years viable. You need to have joint subsidies for the production of films. You have to have studios, facilities that promote and encourage exchange and collaboration. You have to have these exchanges. We should have in Brexit a program similar to Erasmus. We don't have that, but we should have a type of Erasmus. When our students from India wants to do a year in my university, we do have those exchanges, but they're not financially supported. They're very difficult, for example, for a student from Ethiopia to come to the UE or to come to Europe, unless, and it's a very small number. So we need to think of this, because this is also the way we will change. At the moment, with these sanctions against Russia, I understand that there's like some Chinese film festival being shown, and that might be starting to change some things in Russia, appreciation of films, but there's a lot work to do, and tastes of the consumers will not be changed from one day to another. The most important part for the BRIC is to create these platforms of distribution and exchange, which needs to be, as I said, very well funded, technologically sound, and particularly accessible to every corner of the BRICS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Сейчас я хотел бы...
Now I'd like to give the floor to Konstantin Abramov, Director General of Public Opinion Research Foundation, VTsIOM. And I would like to note one thing. Starting from 1990, this research center has been conducting polls starting from 90s, and it all started under Yeltsin. But every single year, the question includes the same question. How do you believe, is Russia is independent civilization, or is it part of European world? And there is one very interesting detail. In mid-90s, when all our elite was absolutely sure that Russia is a part of Western world, 72% responded that Russia is an independent civilization. 72 of those polled. But then, a true patriot, a great leader, Vladimir Putin came into power. How do you think, what percentage of those polled responds to the question, is Russia a civilization, or is it a part of Western civilization? So what was the percentage? Putin says that Russia is independent, sovereign civilization. But as for the polls, the percentage remained the same, 72%. This is what deep identity means. The elites might think one way, might promote certain ideas, adhere to certain principles, but the people, the deep culture in any civilization, Indian, Islamic, African, Latin American civilization, has the same opinion. And that is extremely important, for we move to sociology, and sociology as such gives information. We are to have sovereign sociology in each particular country. We do use Western models apart from one country. Do you know which country has autonomous sociology? Who knows? India does. For the founder was French, Louis Dumont, who wrote the book on a hierarchical man. And he laid the foundations of Indian sociology, which is relevant for the Indian society. He was French, but his model against sociological individualism was based on the study of Indian society. We do need such sovereign sociology in all our member states. It does require certain attention, and I believe that the process of making our sociology sovereign can be well addressed by you, Konstantin Abramov. I will provide the information from the Russian Center of VTsIOM, and it will demonstrate the study of the public opinion of Russian citizens. We are part of sociology. We are kind of empirical sociology. We're based on polls. And according to its basic principles, we can say that in the West, there are certain centers that conduct polls all over the world. Now we conducted a research in relation to BRICS. Many other countries conduct similar research, but the methodology is different. If we talk about a certain organization or unity, mental, business, political unity, we are to use instruments. And the poll is just an instrument, a very important instrument, but the instrument that sees at which stage of following and attaining certain goals we are. I definitely thank our colleagues from Iran, from India, Ethiopia, and other countries for attending our session today. It was great to hear such positive ideas. I'm very thankful to Alexander Dugin, who promotes, in my opinion, a very important value that the beauty lies in difference. Psychologists and Western philosophers did speak about it. It's very close to Western culture. The previous colleague said that Western civilization, in the way it is right now, is at the dead end. I would say differently. I believe that this civilization, by its action, takes the entire world to its end. Homo sapiens, the man, the human, will no longer be there once it enforces all its targets, goals, and values that it's trying to impose all over the world. And I'd like to focus on the data that we have assembled. These are very representative data that we collected together with our partners, TASS and Ross Congress. 1,600 respondents were polled. Only adults participated in the poll, but they represent the population of the Russian Federation. So this is what the Russians 18 plus believe. The error is 2%. The level of information about BRICS, 97% currently say that they know about the activity of BRICS, whereas before the level was much lower. Now the recognition of brands is very high. The influence on the situation in the world. And estimate the role BRICS plays in the decision of the world has strong influence. If in 2015 38% said that it does have influence, now 57% of Russian citizens say that BRICS has a significant impact on the situation around the world. Has weak influence. The respondents in 2015 accounted to 29%. In 2024, the number is the same. The level of awareness on the activity of BRICS is growing in general. And the more the level of awareness is, the more the percentage of the people who believe that the influence of BRICS is enhancing and it's becoming stronger. What areas of cooperation with BRICS might be the priority for Russia, according to those polled? First, economics. Deepening economic and trade relations, creating a single currency financial market. Goes second with 37% of those polled. Joint decisions in the security issues and joint cooperation in combating terrorism. 32 and 18% of the respondents. So trade is one of the key priorities, and the second priority is security. Implementation of joint research and technology projects. That's the third most important area, according to the people polled. We are also interested in that sphere, for we promote scientific and cultural projects which are to unite us at the end of the day and to create common ground, common language, common values. Yes, the beauty is in differences, but if we want to unite, we are to understand what is our basis. What can our tree beautifully grow on? Increased cooperation in energy markets such as oil and gas is also an element that is to be key factor of our relations, amounting to 16%. 5% of those polled say that simplification of visa regimes, and 4% say the development of education and cultural exchanges is important. In any case, we are to say that cultural exchange and tourism means maximum involvement of people into the culture of other peoples, of other countries. And the more we come in touch personally with other cultures, with our countries, the more loyal you become to a particular country. You get interested in the particular country and culture. Look at the question, rate on a 5-point scale who are interested, not interested in the following countries from the point of view of tourism destination. Based on the poll, China, the index of tourist interest is 78%. United Arab Emirates ranks the second. This country is interesting for Russians. Brazil ranks third with 57%. Egypt ranks fourth. Next, India, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Iran. Unfortunately, Ethiopia, from the touristic standpoint, is less appealing than other countries. As for index of accessibility, it is clear from the standpoint of interest, but what about accessibility? Egypt ranks first. It is often visited by our citizens and is still considered one of the very accessible one. China ranks second with 25%. India ranks third with 18%. United Arab Emirates ranks fourth with 18%. Next come Iran, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, Brazil, and South Africa. Brazil and South Africa are remote countries, expensive in terms of tourism, and it's a bit difficult to access these countries. We understand that hypothetically we can see the joint index of tourism interest and accessibility. So what are the leaders? China ranks first. It is a country that our citizens are interested in and would like to visit it, and it is quite accessible. Egypt then ranks second. India and United Arab Emirates are in the leaders based on the interest and accessibility. As we can see, if we look at the slide attentively, we believe, our citizens believe, that the accessibility of the majority of these countries is not very high. Low accessibility characterizes almost every member state of BRICS from the standpoint of the tourism potential. How is it? What is it related to? It is related to economics, of course. Today, not many Russian citizens can afford themselves to visit other countries around the world, to visit them as tourists. And if we want to promote the idea of a joint market, of common traditions, common values, we understand that the means and the measures of united people become very important. But they might be a financial burden on people. And we need to use the mass media means and the instruments of cultural promotion, which are rather affordable, which are rather cheap for the population. They are accessible. What does the phenomenon of mass culture, of Western culture, lies in? It is cheap, and it is of good quality, and they have expanded throughout the entire market. They have absorbed the global market, so to say. And when we discuss this issue with our colleagues from other countries, my younger colleagues who are under 30, they all live in the cultural paradigm. The majority of them live in the cultural paradigm. Those who live in the CIS countries, and we for decades had a common cultural space. These people still think in the cultural codes of the West. They watch Western cartoons. They watch Western films. They had the role models of the West. In our country, our citizens name the Western role models, Western idols. We had a huge chance of moving away from our own civilization because of this mass culture, mass brainwash that all the countries were subject to after the collapse of Soviet Union. And Russia used to be in such a situation, Ukraine in such a situation now. Now we are going back, we return to our values. We did not have an ideology for a certain time, and it is only reviving. And I admire the people of Russia. For many years, it has been traditional saying that we do have our own civilization. Because at that time, the elite did not think that way. The elite did not think like the people did. But the Russian civilization has faced it throughout its history many times, when the elite thought itself to be a part of the Western civilization. And the people did not think that way. Centuries have passed. We are still the people of Russia. We have our own language. Today is the birthday of the founder of the modern Russian language, of Alexander Pushkin. Today is a great day, especially for Russians. Thank you.
В этом был один слайд, конечно, который...
There was one slide that makes us kind of sad because we don't know much about culture in BRICS countries. So BRICS is everything but culture. If we observe economic, financial interactions, these are not so well developed in BRICS. In social imagination, yes, 44%, 37%. Well, yes, we have the new development bank, but it doesn't really function that well. So we're not talking about what's happening now, but we're talking about expectations. So then the last figure, 4%, the development of educational cultural exchanges is nearing zero. That's the reality. We have to mature, right? That's what was talked about. We have to start BRICS 2.0 with changing the philosophy. BRICS is not just a block of imaginary financial initiative. It's a cultural breakthrough. It's a new philosophy. That's what we have to start with. So let's focus on this figure, 4%. Let's imagine we had this new really powerful bank. The economy were growing very fast. We're booming in our countries. But the reality is that we are now on the first stage, on the first step. So we have to move to BRICS 2.0. These expectations have to be met. So these expectations are really too high, to be honest, but we have to catch up culturally. I think that we have to focus on this figure, 4%. Once again, let me emphasize it. We're not talking about things that are real, but it's a collective imagination in our Russian society. That's what we imagine BRICS to be like. I think it's pretty similar in China, Ethiopia, but maybe it's not the case. Maybe we are mistaken. So we need sociology here at place. That would be interesting to learn what the situation is like in India. How many people would see potential in BRICS? In Russia, it's 4%. Well, I believe it can be different in different societies. Well, maybe in the next years, during the next meetings are best prominent sociologists asked us this question, and maybe we'll answer them. So Ahmed Elsayed, researcher of international relations at the Egyptian Center for Strategic Studies. The floor is yours.
Dugin. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to be with you today at this prestigious event, the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum and the BRICS Expert Forum, which brings together distinguished group of leaders, thinkers, and experts worldwide to discuss important economic and social issues. In my speech, I will try to answer the questions about whether BRICS countries can become a common cultural market. Allow me to begin by talking about the challenges and opportunities associated with this topic, and then presenting possible strategies to enhance cultural understanding and develop a common cultural market among BRICS countries. As you all know, the BRICS group consists of countries with diverse cultural and historical backgrounds, each with a rich and distinct cultural heritage. However, this diversity may also challenge achieving effective cultural cooperation. But on the other hand, how can we exploit this diversity to benefit cultural collaboration? The most important challenges are the following. First, absence of geographic and cultural ties. One of the problems facing the group is that it is an alliance significantly different from other international grouping, as there is no clear political or cultural link, and there is no geographical or regional connections, but BRICS countries belong to 4 different continents. Second is cultural diversity, represented by the difference of cultural backgrounds. Each BRICS country has its own distinct cultural and historical heritage. This diversity can lead to difficulties in mutual understanding and cultural cooperation unless it is effectively addressed. Third challenge, linguistic diversity. The official language of the BRICS countries included Portuguese, Russian, Hindi, Chinese, and English. Now with the inclusion of new countries, there are additional languages such as Arabic and Persian. This linguistic diversity presents challenges in communication methods and in developing common policies. This may be the most important cultural challenge facing the BRICS bloc. But the picture is not bleak, as there are many indicators that the countries can exploit to overcome these obstacles. The BRICS countries can become a common cultural market if they can overcome the mentioned challenges. And there are several strategies that BRICS countries can implement to overcome cultural challenges, including the first thing, enhancing dialogue and mutual understanding through holding regular forums and meetings like this. Conferences and regular forums can be organized to enhance understanding and cooperation among member states in the bloc. Cultural exchange, encouraging cultural exchange through education, artistic and cultural programs to strengthen ties between people. The second strategy, utilizing technology through digital communication. Using technology to enhance virtual communication and collaboration will reduce the impact of geographical distance. Shared platforms, creating electronic platforms for cooperation in research and development, education, and trade. The third strategy, collaboration on joint development projects, and that benefit all member states, such as infrastructure, technology, and renewable energy. Joint financing, establishing joint funding mechanism to support development and research projects between BRICS countries. And there are some other steps can also be taken that can contribute to the formation of a common cultural market, such as exchanging cultural works and materials such as films, series, books, and music, exchanging higher education and academic programs in the fields of culture and media, establishing networks between cultural and arts institutions in different countries, supporting scientific research in the study of culture and common history, organizing courses and the professional workshop for those interested in the cultural sector, establishing funds to finance joint cultural projects, encouraging translation among the main language of the BRICS countries. Finally, I look forward to fruitful discussion and exchange of ideas on this vital topic, and I hope our dialogue contribute to strengthen cultural ties between BRICS countries. Thank you for your attendance and attention. I wish us all successful and fruitful decision session. Thank you.
Благодарю вас. Фактически мы прекрасно.
Thank you very much. I think we're pretty much on time. Maybe there are some questions. Please, Mr. Amar. And who are you addressing the question to?
Благодарен вам за то, что вы дали мне возможность задать вопрос. Меня зовут Амар Абдельхамид, я по происхождению с Египта. Я директор Центра Арабо-Евразийского исследования. Вопрос может больше всего к вам, Александр Ильич. Как мы знаем, как вы знаете, одних благих намерений...
To you. Good intentions are not enough to turn the BRICS into a cultural forum, not just an economic forum. We have to take into account that each BRICS state has some internal forces that impedes this convergence. How can we oppose these internal forces that, well, so to speak, that are closer to the West than to the East? How can we oppose these forces to make the BRICS reality? It's a very good idea. On a more serious note, and we're approaching a very serious conversation, one should say that BRICS is a new ideology, a new worldview. What's new about it? The thing is that this worldview is now only taking its shape. It's in the process of being formed. It ignores the universality of the Western values. The Western civilization is now stopping being the universal one. It's becoming local, and it changes everything. Take Egypt, India, take African states, take Latin America. We're not now dealing with people who think that the elites, mostly youth and certain segment of youth, that think that Western values are universal, and people on the opposite side that think that civilization have Islamic roots or Hinduism roots or Confucianism roots, and those are more important than Western values. So this is so now it's the question of decolonization. The West colonized everything. It's a split, it's a certain split. The West colonized our conscience. BRICS is an uprising, if you will, against this colonization. And of course, we're dealing with issues in this regard. And we have differences, our differences. More than 10 years ago, I think, we launched a project. We understood that all the political system in Ethiopia, in Egypt, Russia, well, Iran is an exception, are connected to three theories of new time. Firstly, liberalism, an alternative is communism, and then third, nationalism. And nationalism is in turn a Western model. And while we're still trying to make sense in these three pillars. Well, let's take a look at Africa. Liberal, nationalist, or communist regimes. Once Africa got rid of those colonizers, it still kept this colonization on itself. We need a fourth theory that is beyond liberalism, communism, nationalism. In Russia, we don't need any of that. What does it mean? We need to search for a new model. It's a fourth political theory. That's what it called it. And I have a book that is called the same way. And it has been translated in multiple languages. It's been available in Somali language, in Nepalese language. Can you imagine? Now it's been translated into very exotic languages. So we have our own response. The notion of building new political system in Islam cannot be liberal, communist, nor can it be nationalist. India, Narendra Modi, is democracy, but it's a different democracy. It's democracy of different values. So this fourth political theory, it's an evolutionary code to oppose, to combat this colonization. But we, the BRIC countries, will have to stand against the West. BRICS is not something that is taken for granted. We have to stand for multipolar world, both with internal and external enemies. And I think everything will be addressed by it. Everything will experience it. Our colleagues just talked about the media sector. It's still under the pressure of the Western hegemony, and it's very hard to get rid of it. But we are experienced. India, Iran, China, we all have vast experience of how to not let liberalism win over us. In China, there is one thing that nobody notices. Culture is not state, and it's not an individual person. It's a culture that creates this unity between the masses and the elites. And the elites are dedicated to these values, and the masses catch up with them. It's not competence. It's not competition, and it's very hard to identify formally. So I think we have to combat fiercely in our society, in the Indian society. In the world, I meet people who are against BRICS and for BRICS in every village, in every town. Every people is now divided. The total majority is in favor of BRICS, but in the elites, the situation is often reverse. Well, I'm trying to remember the 90s when the elites were pro-Western, but the people thought we are a separate civilization. Well, we're facing the same situation in other countries. Well, I think France witnesses the same thing. I remember they had a protest against homosexual marriages. I saw all the French elites take to the streets. France is for traditional values, but nobody cares about that today in the current liberal elites. So we are in for a heavy fight for identity, for sovereignty, and I think it's the business of everyone. But if we unite our forces, and if the proponents of Indian, Latin America, Chinese, Iranian identity, if we all unite our forces, if we exchange our experience, it'll be easier for us to defeat our enemy. Well, if we just act by ourselves, we're Russians, we don't care about anyone, or India, take for example India, we have to be careful. We have to pay attention to our partners. We have to give a global response. It's a peaceful, fair, humane response. So we respect the counterparty. We respect the need to preserve the identity. It's the combat for our freedom and for your freedom. Thank you very much.